This video was sponsored by Squarespace. On some recent videos, I've had the comment that my shoulders look a bit bigger. Thanks for noticing, guys. I haven't actually been doing any specific hypertrophy work for them though. It's just that as usual, I've been training with a range of functional skills, and that's had the delightful side effect of making them look bigger. This is the good news. If you do hybrid and functional training right, they're actually great for hypertrophy, so you don't have to choose between looks and function. Of course they are, because we're getting a range of stimuli all at once. And so with that in mind, here are some of the moves I've been doing to improve shoulder strength, mobility and aesthetics, so you can get bolder shoulders that are still highly functional. So first up, I often do windmills as part of my warm-up. This is just an easy way to get blood flowing to the shoulders and to loosen up the joints. I also do hangs. Hangs are fantastic for opening up the shoulders and improving range of motion. I've made a whole video on them. But they're not as intense as other static stretches, so I see no issue in putting them at the start of my workouts. Dr. John Kirsch believes that regular hanging can actually move the acromion and reshape the coracoacromial ligament, leading to easier movement and lower risk of impingement. Actual physical changes to the joint. Good stuff. I also start a lot of my workouts at the moment with heavy bag work. This is mainly for the skills practice and cardio, but it's actually a great workout for the shoulders. There's two things that make this great. Firstly, it's explosive, which is an important capability of the shoulders. You know, you want to be able to be strong in a max strength kind of way, but this is very different from generating explosive power, and we want to be able to do both. Secondly, it fits what I describe as chaos training. See my book Adaptive Training for more. That is to say that when boxing, every single rep is different. The angles are constantly changing, the rest time in between explosive punches changes. In other words, this is much closer to the kind of unpredictable way we actually use our shoulders day to day. We don't want to do this too hard or for too long though. We're treating it as a warm-up. 5 to 10 minutes of relatively light heavy bag work will do. Next, I'll usually do some handstand practice. This needs to go near the start while we're relatively fresh. Holding static handstands is another expression of strength, almost the opposite of boxing, as you're using tiny micro adjustments to keep yourself balanced. This is yielding isometric training, and it's amazing for the side delts in particular, and you'll notice they're impressive in anyone who trains handstands regularly. My handstand isn't super straight. I used to think this was due to mobility limitations, but I've since realised I actually can get my handstand straight. I just find it a bit scary because I'm going to topple over. And when I practice at home, I don't have the space to roll or cartwheel out of the handstand without crashing into some of the kids' toys. I'm usually in the living room. I also have a lot less control when I'm straight, so I'm kind of relearning the move right now. Something I'm doing occasionally in some workouts is practicing pike push-ups with lift-offs. So here I raise the legs in a controlled fashion once I'm at the bottom of the pike push-up. I'm doing this to increase strength, but also to increase my control and widen the balance window, the variety of positions I can hold without falling. I can handstand push-up, but it's very hit and miss, so I'm hoping that this will help with that. It's also just a brutal compound movement for the shoulders, and ample evidence that you can get an amazing stimulus with bodyweight alone. I credit this handstand training with much of my recent shoulder growth, especially that kind of capped look. So if you want to get the same effect, then practice handstands. You can do it against a wall, or you can just do normal pike push-ups or elevated pike push-ups. There's lots of options, just consider it. After that, I'll usually move on to bench press. We've trained the other energy systems and expressions of strength, so now it's time for some good old max strength training. I usually do 100 kilograms for 2 sets of 8 reps. I did a bit less the other day as I've hurt my hand and wrist a little. Of course, a flat bench will preference the pecs more than the shoulders, but it's definitely good enough for our purposes here, and I choose the bench because I also want to get that pec work in. A couple of sets with a heavy enough weight is usually more than enough of a stimulus to trigger growth and ensure there's some power and strength behind my movements, especially as I'm already at a fairly high level with the bench. And I call this building the power base. This is where my training could go wrong though. If I go too hard here, I'll compromise the rest of the workout and spend too long recovering over the next few days. So it's about understanding the minimum effective dose, accepting compromise in the name of balance, and understanding the different types of stimulus. This is how the body is supposed to be used, not just maxed out in one area. Next up is dumbbell press, slightly lighter for a mid-range 2 to 3 sets of 12 reps. I'm not super bothered about progressing here. I want to get better at the handstands and punching, while maintaining power and size and preventing injury, and this is good enough for that. While dumbbell pressing, keep looking forwards and not up. Focus on pressing the dumbbells straight overhead and press through the traps at the top of the movement. Contract the core and keep the back arching to a minimal. This is how I do it anyway, and the goal here is to train for actual useful overhead pressing, actual vertical movement, rather than diagonal. This is what translates to the handstands as well as advanced moves like snatches. The rep range is a nice happy medium between strength and hypertrophy. And this is important, we need a bit of hypertrophy because when we train for hypertrophy, we're simultaneously training for strength endurance. No muscle is just for show. This is the purpose of that kind of adaptation as far as your body is concerned. I don't train a single body part or movement pattern each workout anymore. At the moment I tend to train full body, but with a specific focus which determines which body parts get the most love. So next up are either arched back pull-ups or inverted rows. You might consider these more horizontal pulling movements for the lats, but because the arms are a little higher than they might be in, say, a cable row, they also hit the rear delts nicely. This is very important to balance out all that work we've been doing for the front and side delts, and it can do wonders for the traps too. I also do a lot of bicep training and tricep training. Biceps get love with chin-ups and curls, during which I do big mechanical drop sets. Sandbag carries are great for this too, though I'm not doing them much at the moment. Triceps get work from a lot of the same shoulder and pec work, but I might also throw in some isolation training in the form of tricep pushdowns. Remember, the biceps are actually biarticular, meaning that they cross two joints and play a role in shoulder elevation. And in terms of aesthetics, you need that arm detail, the biceps and the triceps, to create definition for the shoulder side profile, to create that contrast and make them really pop. The last bit of targeted shoulder work I often do at the moment is the kettlebell halo. And yes, you can do this with a weight plate too, if you don't have access to a kettlebell, but this is a big compromise. It significantly limits your range of motion. Better yet is a club, but you won't find those at many gyms. I've talked about this a fair bit recently, but essentially this takes the shoulder through 360 degrees of motion and it works all of the muscle heads as a result. It's also a nice weighted stretch when performed properly, so make sure to let your arms drop naturally as far behind your head and upper back as you can. But the reason I love them is that they're a form of strength endurance that you can perform for massively high reps. They offer continuous time under tension, pooling blood and metabolites in the area to encourage a lot of growth. This, combined with the circular motion and gentle stretch, also really nourishes the tendons and helps to make those shoulders really invincible. Try doing 2 sets of 2 minutes and you'll feel a massive pump. Or of course start out with whatever you can, but just don't stop until you feel that massive metabolic stress. I'm using 20 kilograms, but you should definitely start light with this one. Other good options for this kind of high rep finisher include crawls or battle ropes. And if you want another option for working with range of motion, try pullovers. Finally, we can finish with some mobility work. Shoulder openers, back bridge regressions, crab are all good options. My current favourite is the overhead squat with a light bar. This is fantastic because it requires mobility through the entire posterior chain. Even with mobile shoulders, you won't get that bar overhead if your upper back is permanently hunched in a kyphotic position. And even if you can get your back straight normally, you might struggle at the bottom of the squat if you lack ankle or hip mobility. This is something key to understand. We talk about tight shoulders and tight hips, but actually mobility is also a global trait due to both compensatory movement patterns and the interconnected nature of the fascia. This is a really tough movement and I don't recommend you jump straight into it. As you can see, I'm struggling here and my heels are coming off the floor slightly. But okay, that about does it for the shoulders. And as you can see, we've hit them from every angle. We've hit them fast, we've hit them slow, we've hit them strong, and we've hit them long. And that's what works so well. We're covering every base, ensuring the shoulders are stable and strong in every position. We've worked all the energy systems and sent lots of signals to encourage growth. Keep in mind, I do this on top of lots of incidental training, crawling around my house with my kids, doing hand balancing and kettlebell swings in the evening before bed, etc. That gives me frequency and greases the groove. The best part is that if you're someone who responds better to heavy training, then this will work for you. And if you're someone who responds better to high volume, this will work for you because you're doing both. You're covering every possible outcome, and together the results are also compounded. Let me know what you think down below and what you do for shoulders. If you want a training program that incorporates all these principles and many of these same exercises for the entire body, then check out my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training 2.0. Comes with over 2 hours of instructional video and an 85+ page ebook, But either way, thank you for watching, and bye for now. By the way, this video was sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is my recommended tool for building websites. That's because it makes the process incredibly simple. Just choose your template, then customize it with a seamless drag and drop system. But just as important is that these websites just work. And as someone who's run multiple online businesses over the years, this is crucial. The last thing you want is your e-commerce store going down because you made an error in your PHP code. With Squarespace, you get a website that just works perfectly, so you can focus on creating an amazing product and excellent services. And it comes with all the features you could need. Advanced formatting and scheduling for blog posts, a fully integrated commenting system with threaded comments, replies and likes, revenue generation through members-only gated content, member management, comprehensive e-commerce features, analytics and SEO, social media features. You get the idea. And if you need even more features, then you can add them simply with plugins. Whether you want global tracking for your e-commerce products or inventory management, someone will have built the feature that you need, so you can just add it to your site and start to benefit right away. To find out more, go to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Bioneer for 10% off your first domain or website. Thank you once again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, thanks to you guys for watching, and bye for now.